Back home in the United States, attorneys for both the Justice Department and former President Donald Trump are set to appear this afternoon at a hearing before the court-appointed special master in the Mar-a-Lago documents case. The hearing will take place at a federal courthouse in Brooklyn before Judge Raymond Dearie, where he currently serves as a senior U.S. district judge for the Eastern District of New York. Typically, this kind of procedural hearing establishes filing and practices and timetables for the review of documents in the case. But just prior to today's hearing, Trump's attorneys stated in a filing last night they do not want to disclose to Judge Dearie which Mar-a-Lago documents they assert the former president may or may not have declassified. Pushing back against Judge Dearie's apparent proposal, they submit, quote, specific information regarding declassification to him in the course of his review. Meanwhile, the New York Times reports one-time White House lawyer Eric Hirschman warned Trump late last year he could get into legal trouble if he did not return the government documents he took with him when he left office. That is according to 3 people familiar with the matter. The precise date of the meeting is not clear, and Hirschman was not working for Trump at the time. According to the report from Maggie Haberman, Trump thanked Hirschman for the discussion, but was non-committal about whether he would return those documents. Hirschman, as you'll remember, has testified before the January 6th committee and has been subpoenaed in the Justice Department investigation into efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Let's bring in senior legal affairs reporter for Politico Kyle Cheney and former U.S. Attorney Barbara McQuade. Good morning to you both. Kyle, I'll start with you. What is the significance here of Hirschman, according to this report from Maggie Haberman, saying he did warn Donald Trump that he should not take those documents from the White House, that he might in fact be violating the law?
Well, I mean, if that's the case, that's sort of the origin point of almost everything here, which is that Donald Trump knew, he had in his head the knowledge that what he was doing was potentially wrong and afoul of the law. And so a lot of this, all the questions here about his state of mind, what did he know about what was in the documents, about whether he had the right to take them, and lawyers, almost like the January 6th investigation, lawyers telling him, don't do X, Y, and Z, and then he goes and does it anyway. That tells you a lot about what prosecutors, what criminal investigators may be looking at in terms of state of mind.
So, Barbara McQuade, tell us about the legal ramifications of this, that this is the president seems like yet another example. The former president was told, like, hey, you can't be doing this. This is trouble. And we know that he and his team as lawyers seemingly did not cooperate and misrepresented and, frankly, sometimes flat out lied to the FBI and to the National Archives about whether or not they had those documents. So talk to us about how this could impact the DOJ's ongoing probe.
Well, it's excellent evidence of one of the essential elements of the offense when it comes to the Espionage Act and also the retention of government records, which is willfulness. Did you do this knowing that it was against the law? And this could be strong evidence of that. One tricky aspect of this, I imagine he would assert attorney-client privilege as to these statements and say that the privilege belongs to him and cannot be waived by a lawyer like Eric Hirschman. I imagine there'd be some litigation, but I think ultimately the government would prevail there because the client is not Donald Trump, the man. It is the president of the United States. And it's actually in the best interest of the office and of the nation for the government to retain these documents. So I think the government would win that battle there, but you can bet that Donald Trump will assert that. I also think it could be relevant to the obstruction of justice charges, which is, I think, going to come down to, again, was it the lawyers who made these misrepresentations about whether they had the documents, or were they directed to do so by Donald Trump? All of those are going to require some inquiry within the privilege. But again, to the extent that privilege belongs to the government, to the presidency, and not to Donald Trump, the no longer president, I think the government prevails on that issue.
Barbara, later today, Donald Trump's lawyers will be appearing in federal district court in Brooklyn before Judge Raymond Dearie, a longtime federal district court judge who has the reputation of being a no-nonsense jurist. And they are there in line with longtime Trump legal philosophy to delay every action ever filed against him for 40 years. What do you think the reaction will be from the federal court today about this appeal to delay?
Yeah, this filing that the Trump team made last night is really like the prototype. You know, what's the first item on the checklist? Make sure you ask for delay, and sure enough, there it is. You know, the government proposes one schedule, the even the judge's own draft plan proposes another, and the first thing they say out of the gate is, whoa, 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 the schedule you propose is way too fast. And, you know, the only person bound by this schedule is the judge himself. And so what they're suggesting is, you don't need to have this all wrapped up by October. Let's take our time. Let's make it realistic. Let's make sure it can be thorough. Let's extend this into November. So that's the first part of it. I don't think the judge is going to entertain that because he's the one who's got to do the work. And if he says, I think I can do it within this time period, then I think he's going to be able to make the decision there. He'll hear them, but I doubt he will accept that timeline. The other thing, of course, is that they also say, we don't want to have to assert which documents we are claiming we've declassified. And I think this is a real tell that this is a lie, that there's no declassification, and that the lawyers want to delay that answer because they know they don't have an answer to that question. If they make that same misrepresentation in court that Donald Trump has been making on social media, they stand to be disbarred. And so they are never going to make that claim. They want to delay it as long as possible because ultimately they're not going to be able to make it.